biggest deal to me is making sure he has an outlet on every play, that they're going to be in the pressure. Hey, let's get a completion, try to make a guy miss in space, and we'll play the next play.
Biggest lesson for Kliff coming out of the Week 1 loss against Tampa was what? And now, obviously, you've never learn it, apply it over the course of an entire regular season. And here we are facing the same team again going into Wild Card Weekend.
Doing a bunch of substituting and really slowing the game down, thinking that would help him, and I think it hurt us as a unit. You know, we play better with more rhythm and pace, and him getting on the ball and being able to have more time on the play clock to analyze and see what the defense is doing. And we really subbed a bunch. We played in some sets that were not as probably dynamic or having our best 4 or 5 skill players on the field at the same time. And I thought the coaching staff did a nice job of recognizing that and adjusting that moving forward.
It's really interesting to go back and watch Week 1 and seeing some of the personnel groupings and some of the things they tried to do. And now hearing some of the reasoning behind it from Kliff makes a lot of sense, and also why they got away from it. One of the things that they also didn't do a good job of in Week 1 was getting Terry McLaurin the ball. Now, that does not mean there weren't opportunities. There were certainly some shots called and some things that I think a Jayden Daniels of Week 4 or 5, even Week 3 against Cincinnati, you obviously found Terry a couple times deep there, would have made. Just Week 1, Week 2, Jayden hadn't quite figured out some of the NFL windows, some of the NFL timing, what NFL Open is quite yet. But he learned tremendously fast. But what does Kliff attribute the lack of production in Week 1 from Terry against this same Tampa team?
Yeah, I think we definitely did not have a good enough plan to get him the ball. And then Todd Bowles is a good defensive coach, so I don't, having watched the game, it's hard to even watch because it's so different than what we are now. But he recognizes that's one of the best players in the league, and so he's going to do everything to take him away. And then I do a better job calling plays, and I think Jayden has evolved to a point now where when we have an opportunity to get Terry the ball, he's going to take advantage of it.
I think that's 100% correct. I think Bowles might have even had a better understanding of how good McLaurin is at that point than Quinn and Kliff was, because I think, again, Terry's ability as a contested catch player is so special that unless you just give him the opportunities, it's easy on tape to be like, he's not open. It's like, no. For him, that's open. Give him the ball. And not only might he catch it, he might catch it to break a tackle and run for an extra 20 yards. So I think that is the thing that Jayden and Kliff and everybody around the staff has learned. And in Week 1, they did give him some deep shots, some opportunities. And again, there was some stuff that was open, but they didn't force feed it. They didn't say, hey, we're going to get him a slant, a screen, a hitch. Like, when we're going a quick game, like, let's make sure we look at Terry, because getting him involved just means other things start to happen. And Jamel Dean's a very good corner. He had a very successful day, allowed no catches to McLaurin in Week 1. I would imagine, because he also wasn't targeted very much. I'd imagine if you're Jamel Dean, you could play similar coverage on Sunday, and you won't have as quiet of a day. You're going to have some work to do against 17. Now, also, another way that they prevent 17 from getting involved is this defense is mega aggressive for Todd Bowles. In fact, since Week 11, no team has blitzed more. Week 11, by the way, the Tampa bye week. So since Tampa did the self-scout and all the things you do want to buy and comes back, in that stretch, no team has blitzed more in the NFL than the Tampa Bay Bucs. They are blitzing on 48% of pass snaps, almost 1 of every 2. They actually blitzed Jayden, one of their highest percentages of the season pre that Week 11 bye, at 47% in Week 1, something that Kliff dealt with then and will have to deal with now.
Yeah, I think he's great at the pressures, knowing when to dial him up and call him. It's not just third down. Like, he has a great feel for your tendencies, what you've done throughout the season, and when to bring those pressures. And so I have to be great on my sequencing and play calling, and then just give Jayden answers for those pressures. Like, we got to be able to get the ball out of our hand. We can't take those first and second down sacks, and that's the biggest deal to me is making sure he has an outlet on every play, that they're going to bring the pressure. Hey, let's get a completion, try to make a guy miss in space, and we'll play the next play. But if you don't have answers, he'll make it a long day for you.
Sure will. Sure did in Week 1.
Number 2.
But this isn't Week 1 anymore. Jayden's answer in Week 1 was simply to just run. And he did. He was pretty effective as a scrambler, but that is very different than making quick decisions and kind of getting Tampa out of some of these blitz looks, knowing that that's what they want to do. So what has been the biggest area of growth for Jayden Daniels since week 1? Here's Kliff Kingsbury once again.
Everything, really. I think just understanding the system. The first game, we didn't know what we were or who we were, what he was. And so even me calling plays and understanding how to put him in better situations to be successful, and all the skill guys. How do we use this guy? So we've evolved a bunch, but I think you just watch his game and the way he played that first game. I mean, the very first pass he threw for like -20, like a backwards pass. And he's just come a long way. So it's a lot of hard work, a lot of mental reps. And so I'm anxious to see the second time around, how far we've come as an entire unit.
I'm totally right there with Kliff as an observer. Obviously, he's a participant, but it's interesting to hear him say, like, we truly did not know who we were. They have a keen sense of that now. I do think it's been a little bit squirrely as of late, as their rushing attack has not been good, but they have found ways around it. Whether that's the quick passing game, whether that's the quarterback run game, that is something that they have been more comfortable putting a lot of things in Jayden's hands. And Kliff was actually asked, like, what % of the time does Jayden make the right decision? And again, that could be simply handing the ball off on an RPO, but how often does he make the right football play?
That's a great question. A high percentage, I would say. Like the one thing that's shown up, I think, the last few, I would say probably the last month when we've had to put the ball in his hands more because the run game hasn't been there. We played good teams that are good against the run, but I'd say just the negative plays, like the first, second down sacks, the sack number in general has gone up, and some of that's he's trying to take over and make the play. But I think for the most part, if you put those out, like he's going to the right place for the ball the majority.
He definitely is. Even last week, like the throws weren't on target to the level that we're used to with him, but he was making good decisions by and large. And I do think that when they've really preached something to him, he has shown an adaptability and dexterity to learn. And so I do wonder if we see some more throwaways, if we see some stuff this week that's a little bit different in the sack department, because that has clearly been a point of emphasis from Dan Quinn and from Kliff Kingsbury the last couple of weeks.
Number 3.
Last but not least, Kliff did make the playoffs as a head coach in Arizona. This is his first trip back, though, in a long, long time. What's this opportunity mean to the Commanders' offensive coordinator?
It is. It's very exciting. It's hard to get here. I think that's what these young players need to understand, is that there's a lot of veterans that have played 10, 12 years. It's like the second time they've even got in. And we got in the 1 year in Arizona, and it was not a great game, but it was a lot of work to get there. And so I think just being in the moment, understanding how fortunate we are to be in this position, and we won the last 4 games on the last play, and it can go like that in this league. So we got to make sure we appreciate and take advantage of the opportunity.
The other thing about the playoffs, not just how hard it is to get back, that I don't know that unless you're in it every day, you really appreciate and understand. And I say this as someone who's on a beat, not on a team, right? I was in the locker room every day for the better part of 5 years covering a team, and I only covered one playoff season in 2015. And the thing is, but I did cover, like, from the studio side of it. In Dallas, I covered a couple of playoff teams. But every playoff team I've ever covered, especially in the NFL, is how quickly it ends. And it's something that we're not really thinking about right now. And hopefully we're not thinking about it for a couple of weeks. Who knows? Maybe we'll know when it ends because they go on a run and they're in the Super Bowl. And it's like, oh, we got one more. But when you think that you can win, which all these guys do, and then suddenly it's over, and the next day is a locker clean out, the just suddenness of that is something that is hard to describe. And I distinctly remember experiencing that as a reporter in 2015, going from, hey, they're going to beat Green Bay. I like the way this matchup is shaping up for Washington, and thinking about what the next game would be and all that, to, wait, what? We have to be in Ashburn at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and a bunch of dudes are going to be putting all their stuff in trash bags? The hell? So I think that would be, if I'm Bobby Wagner, if I'm a Dan Quinn, if I'm getting up in front of the team this week at all, I'd be like, not only should you appreciate this moment because of how hard it is to get here, and you can talk, have guys that have been those 10-year players talk about how this might even be their first playoff game. But a guy like Bobby, who's both won and lost, can talk about how abrupt the ending is if you lose and how terrible that feeling is. And that's something you just don't want on Sunday.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.